Welcome back to the PCS, ladies and gentlemen. We have a sunny afternoon in Taipei, and right beyond the horizon is our playoffs coming fast and close to you as we head on to Week 5, Day 2 of our games. Before we dive any deeper, I'm your host and play-by-play today, Clement Chu, and along with me is the ever-so-handsome Frank Nightstar. And before we go a little bit further, we have to have a big shout out to our organizers at Riot Games. Really cool new logo right there. Carry Live, Garena, and of course to our main sponsors in CTBC Bank and Caliber. Now, this is a very exciting set of games that we have today. Much closer results than yesterday, I would say. We have evenly matched games across the board. What are you most excited for, and what do you see in that crystal ball of yours, Frank, when it comes to playoffs?
I think the highlight matchup of today is, or should be, PSG taking on DCG. That will be our second game of the day. So it's coming up very, very shortly. So that is really intriguing to me because DCG will be on blue side for that particular matchup. And in our league, blue side has been incredibly oppressive, a lot more oppressive than in a lot of the other leagues. I think the closest I saw was like maybe a 58% win rate for blue side in like CBLOL or something. So our 70% win rate on blue has been ridiculous. It's been bonkers. I don't understand it.
I don't either. You know, we've talked about this a lot. It's like power picks, the Zeris and stuff like that. But still, the other leagues aren't doing as one-sided as the PCS.
Yeah.
You have any like explanations to why this might be?
I think it's just been really the utilization of counter picks coming in from red side just hasn't quite been there as you might see in some of the other leagues. But yesterday's results, I think, while none of the results are that surprising, how we got there was a little bit surprising, especially in that third game. FAK Esports did hold an advantage in that game, and it looked like they were starting to trend towards being able to take the game themselves. And then also that last game, we saw a very contested J team PSG the first time around, but the second time around, it was not even close.
Yeah, that definitely was the case here. Yesterday, we did welcome CTBC Flying Oyster and Megabank Beyond Gaming into the playoff season for sure. The name of the game is to keep ahead of Hurricane. If your win difference is larger than the remaining game pool, then congratulations, you have made it into playoffs. So today we don't have anyone that will potentially secure their spot necessarily, but Sem9 could just drop out today, and they could also just find their first win. All on the line for them.
Yeah, only 5 games remaining left in the regular season, so you just have to get above 5 or if Sem9 lose today, then Impunity are almost nearly locked in, or Sem9 are knocked out, I should say.
I'm just going to put the magic number at 8. It's easier to understand.
Yes.
And we are going to head on to today's matchups right here. Sem9 versus FAK Esports to start off the day. And then we are going to be closing with a huge set of playoff potential games. You already mentioned DCG versus PSG. CFO versus Beyond Gaming seems to be the one that a lot of people are looking at. That's going to be between our 3rd and currently 5th place teams matching up against each other.
That will also be a very tantalizing matchup because both of these teams have been, I would say, playing relatively individualistic. So given the relatively matching play styles, should be really, really fun to watch. And possibly, if it gets messy, that's when things will really be exciting because of the individual outplay potential.
But for today, we have some new faces coming back onto the Rift. We welcome Caspiel and Carino to find the first win for Sem9 here. These guys haven't played as much as Lazar and Arashi, but I think they do bring their own style to this game.
Yeah, it's a bit more of a veteran flair. Of course, Caspiel and Carino have played in the professional scene for quite a while. And at the very least, this mid lane matchup should be very exciting because on the flip side, we have Kurt, Hollow, Pretender, Eminem, K2 coming back into the lineup. Both of these teams have a bit of a revolving door when it comes to some of their positions.
Mhm.
For Frank Esports, it's that support position, going between Rebirth and K2 constantly. And on the flip side, it's been the duo of Caspiel, Kirino, and Arashi and Lazar. So it feels like they kind of want to keep the veteran and the youth together, paired up. But our mid lane matchup is going to be Kirino and Pretender. Both of these players have excelled at the assassin portion of the champion pool. So this is going to be a relatively exciting matchup, especially given that Pretender did take a little bit to ramp up, but 6 solo kills, nothing to scoff at.
One of the highest in the PCS currently. Another stat I want to explain here is the, I believe, first blood victim rate. This was explained from our production, and that's actually pretty huge for Kirino not to be the victim of any of those first bloods. When he has been playing, we have noticed that Sem9 has a much better early game than their standard sort of Lazar setups that we've seen. So maybe this is the matchup where they are hinging their first win on. They could drop out of playoffs today, and this is an absolutely huge match to try and go up against Frank Esports, as their remaining matches are all against playoff teams.
Yeah, this is a must-win situation for Sem9 if they want to keep playoff hopes alive, and also just reasonably their best opportunity to get that first win, as we are into pick and ban. Aphelios being banned away on blue side is very interesting. Usually we wouldn't see it as a first ban, perhaps towards the end at that third ban, and the red side has already taken away some of those other 80 carries, then you would consider it. But it feels like they're really trying to force out the Jinx ban from Frank Esports on red side.
Definitely, or they could just pick it themselves. Kind of an interesting draft phase. On the other hand, we do have Frank banning out the Graves from Shiromine. Just rather unorthodox bans across the board here. Akali also being taken away from potentially Pretender and Kurt right there. That has been one of Kirino's champions that he's seen. So far, he's only played 2 games. The other one has been the Zed. So if you're excited about some Zed matchups, this is your guy, and this is your team to watch. Shiromine is going to just take the Jinx on the first rotation, which we are going to have to see Frank play something other than their usual hyper carry for M&M.
Yeah, this is interesting given that Frank Esports, it looks like they opted into it because they went ahead and banned away the Tom Kench. And there are still other supports that you can play with the Jinx, like, of course, the Thresh, who still has the ability to peel for your hyper carry, at least relocate them. But it would make your Jinx a little bit more susceptible to dive, and perhaps that's what Frank Esports are looking to capitalize on. But the early phase is an early Gnar pick. That's not it for me, Clement.
If your name isn't Hanabi, we disagree with early Gnar picks. But against Shiromine, I mean, it definitely could work, I guess. So far, Sem9 looks like they are on the right side of the meta. The champions that they have selected here, much higher win rates, much higher ban pick rates. And, wow, we have seen this being played both in support and mid lane in the PCS. But this is a very unique pick to come out this early.
Yeah, the priority onto the Zillion is certainly very curious, and it does, I would say, signal that they are very willing to flex this, and perhaps given that they do see the Rakan, maybe they toss it into that support role. But for Frank Esports, they get themselves that Xayah Rakan Lovers Duo combination. Always welcomed once, you know, Xayah did come back into meta. And so now we'll see what the approach is going to be when it comes to the second phase of bans. Already banning away the Jace. Maybe they go ahead, ban away yet another strong side top laner. Maybe an Irelia who does have kill pressure against something like a Gnar. But I feel like they haven't played towards Shiromine all split long, and Irelia is one of those champions that you do want to invest resources into.
So you're saying probably not going to happen.
Probably not.
Is what I'm getting from that. The Gwen does go out the window as well. We never really want to give Gwen over, though it's a little bit weird when you see the Gwen being banned out when Gnar is considered somewhat of a counter. And then I think Holo is probably two best champions here, being taken off the board in the Hecarim and the Volibear. Very utility-focused early games coming from Holo, so they don't want him to feel too comfortable. And we are going to get perhaps a Trundle here. This would be the first Trundle pick of Holo in the split. Definitely a strong pick if he goes for it. And actually takes away, well, not take away, but goes for the Jarvan, which has been more of a Caspiel champion that we've seen so far.
Right, and I actually, okay, this is very interesting. Picks here. But to go back onto the Jarvan pick, the Jarvan actually makes a lot of sense in this regard because of the Zilean, and because Zilean will want to play around your Jinx. It's very easy to just Cataclysm the Jinx and Zilean together, and that makes a very vulnerable backline. I think that's why we see instantly the 0 locked in from Sem9 as they want to include some sort of peel. But because of this setup, I think we're seeing Zilean top lane.
My brain is just completely frozen right now. I don't think I've ever seen a Zilean top lane being played in competitive. All the rest of lanes, sure, but top lane Zilean seems... I just can't imagine trying to trade with top lane Zilean. It seems so difficult.
Yeah.
Or could we be getting some shenanigans?
So, I think... unless if Shiromini all of a sudden just goes for a smite top laner, which I don't think is as viable, but you can still play it, given the changes to objective bounties. I would say that it's mostly taking advantage of how FAK Esports want to play the map, in that if you're not going to invest a whole lot of resources into top lane, you can get away with some of these more greedy picks like a Zilean in that top side, where you can get taken advantage of in the lane phase, but Kurt hasn't shown that he's been a player in that top lane to fully push his advantages top side. So in that regard, you can get a little bit more greedy and play more team composition wise, and I think that was the angle that Sem9 were trying to take.
Utility top laner, but you definitely could get away with it when you're playing against Kurt, that's for sure. On the other hand, I'd like to talk about the holistic compositions coming out from each side. Sem9, they did round out with the Azir, and on the other side, we have the Orianna coming out for Pretender. So how are these compositions going to work here?
I think the crux of both of these compositions will come down to the Orianna and the Azir, because if Pretender is able to get these shockwaves off in very quick succession with the Jarvan Cataclysm, then the backline is just absolutely decimated. But if Kirino is able to time the Shurima shuffle at the proper time and just shove out the J4, then you're going to get empty shockwaves. And I think this mid lane matchup, while it isn't the assassin matchup we wanted to see, it is going to really come down to the mid lane play.
All right, we'll see if that comes to fruition right here. Of course, the Jarvan is unstoppable during Cataclysm, so it really depends on how Holo can pull off his combos. We do have a 5-point spread just in the early game here. Looking across the map, we get some shots of the runes. Nothing too spectacular, and I do think everyone will be paying attention to how Shiromine is going to be playing this top lane against the Gnar.
Yeah, also looks like he has water walking, so perhaps they're trying to really control this top half of the map, which would be a slightly different approach than how they've typically played out these games, which have been usually mid and bot lane focused. And then for FAK Esports, I mean, Holo does have a wide variety of options when it comes to ganking these lanes. He can gank in that top lane against a Zilean if the Zilean's ever over pushed. Can also get stuck in a trap where he shoves in the wave a little bit too prematurely, because the bombs can shove the wave pretty rapidly, and you
Mhm.
can get stuck in some weird lane positions. So Hollow has a couple of options as far as where he wants to attack, and we'll see. I feel like Frank Esports, they are a composition that would like to get early advantages because of the scaling power of a Jinx, Azir, and Zillion.
All right, we'll see how they do with the bottom lane, but we do have a bit of light trading going on both sides. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, Karina, welcome back to the
Yeah.
PCS. Yeah, last time he's played was in the LSC in 2019, and it seems like Pretender is giving him a really warm welcome. Not what you expect to see early on from Orianna versus Azir, to be frank. Usually Azir wins the early push, but Pretender does change that. Both mid laners going with the Ahri, and Shiromina, meanwhile, in the top lane, missing some CS, but he is shoving the wave in, and with that Water Walk, I just can't wait to see some Zillion time bomb ganks. That just seems so incredibly fun to me.
Yeah, I am very keen to see how this top lane Zillion will perform. And for the side of Frank Esports, of course, like Pretender, that was a really sick trade in the mid lane, but it's kind of a matter of what he can get off of that, since both mid laners are, of course, running the Corrupting Potion, and looks like Hollow is already making his way down. I don't know if this is going to be a dive opportunity, because they are kind of at tower, and early on, that dive with a Rakan is incredibly difficult to pull off, even though you do have a lot of CC.
We do have to pay close attention to the HP bars here. Clay X keeping topped off and does hit level 3, which should mean the dive probably isn't going to happen for Holo. And in the meantime, they do spot out Xin Zhao on the map. Oh, no, sorry, they don't spot out, but they do ping him out on the map. And it seems like the gank is still going to come through. K2 does find Philia. The Ignite goes down. 2 more auto attacks. Blaze Storm doesn't do it.
So
and
close.
Philia stays alive. Blade Caller, excuse me.
Oh, that was really, really close for the side of Frank Esports. Unfortunately, they don't get that kill, and they also expend the flash onto M&M, which is going to be key, because now Caspiel has a window of opportunity to try and swing things.
Clay X still might be the target right here, but he's one auto attack off again. 7-9 escaping their meeting with death. Once more, Caspiel does have to come down here, and Holo. Oh, Caspiel actually tried to go in for that. Holo will find the knock-up, and Caspiel might have made a mistake here. Felia, no flash here, but does survive in the end.
Oh my. 7-9 are a little bit too eager right now to tussle. I think they also are feeling a little bit of the crunch coming in, knowing that this is their best opportunity to A, get that first win, and also B, they need this win to keep their playoffs dreams alive. So perhaps feeling a little bit of the pressure here, but now, you look at the summoners burn down in this bot lane. No flash on Nautilus, no flash on Caspiel, so certainly 2 targets you can try and take advantage of, especially given that Pretender has shown he can get control of that mid wave.
Holo is going to get the Cataclysm with the bot lane of 7-9 being completely flashless. That is going to be massive and something we should pay attention to. Meanwhile, Philia trying to catch Pretender off guard, as Pretender has been pushing very deep into this mid lane. Isn't going to find a chance, and K2 will cover the flank. So far, Frank Esports just winning across all 3 lanes. We see the CS just piling up at this point. M&M coming back to lane with a pretty massive buy here with the Serrated Dirk and the Tear of the Goddess already completed.
Yeah, a really big purchase for him. And is also sort of the reason why we've seen Xayah come back, is that she does have a really strong lane phase with this setup. Being able to have a lot of poke, you outrange the Jinx in the lane phase until Jinx gets a lot more levels and gets the extra range coming in from leveling up her Q. But another gank set up.
Oh, Holo isn't even going to wait for level 6. A very easy first blood right here. You can see that Felia knew he was dead, goes forward instead of backwards, embraces death as it comes over him. His screen turns gray, and So does Sem9 a lot of their hopes. That's a bot lane that's very difficult to come back from, given the lead and the itemization here.
Yeah, just the dynamic of the lane, of course. Xayah being more lane-oriented right now with the current build, and just the fact that Nautilus is a relatively unforgiving champion once you are behind. That's going to make things very difficult for the Sem9 bottom lane, and unfortunately, Felia is just that positioning, not quite it. As Kurt trying to take advantage of a low mana bar coming in from Shiromine, but unfortunately unable to really stick on there. And we can kind of see why this Zillion pick has been locked in, because even with this lane positioning and shoving out in sort of a possible gankable spot, they know, like Frank Esports, they're spending most of their time bot side. And Kurt, he isn't just going to solo kill you out of the blue.
That's definitely true, but I still feel like just simply utility from the top laner, I'm not sure it's worth it. Like, when you think about utility or smite tops, at least they gank and roam early, but a pure utility top laner, ooh, Clayx might have some surprises for him in that brush, has to burn the heal. Featherstorm comes down, and Clayx has to burn his flash once more.
Yeah, and very key is the EXP gap as well here. Level 6 to level 5. Both of these supports looking to make a roam over towards that Rift Herald and try and set up some sort of Rift Herald play, but down in this bottom lane, like Eminem is just really asserting his dominance here. So Sem9 looks like they have positioning, early positioning onto this Rift Herald. It's just a matter of Frank Esports, do they want to contest, with Pretender being a little bit far from the action.
This is going to be a 4v3 that Sem9 hold an advantage over. No Narbar, and Pretender trying to rush towards the scene. Eminem, however, is going to take that opportunity to just find a solo kill in the bottom side. Easy as that. In the meantime, Sem9 do take away the Herald, but they did leave their AD carry for dead. It's just a trade that is relatively interesting. How do you see that trade going down there? What does Sem9 need to do to make it worthwhile?
Yeah, I mean, the issue with the Sem9 securing Herald here is just wondering what lane are you playing for with this Herald, because if you get all the turret plates and that first tower gold, then you essentially recoup what you've lost. But
here we go again, round 2. This
again.
Is the life of AD carry. Welcome to the PCS, Clayx. He dies for the second time within 1 minute. And that trade ended up essentially being 2 kills, first tower for Herald. I think Frank Esports are very happy with that trade.
They are extremely pleased with that trade. And getting extra gold onto an Azir, while isn't that bad, like, it accelerates your mid game just a little bit, but there's really no one on their squad that just fully takes advantage of this extra gold. So it feels like Frank Esports had the correct read and said, hey, you know, yes, you guys get the Rift Herald, but it actually doesn't do a whole lot for you. And given that we're able to get equal amount of plates, or at least for now it's more plates, and in the aspect of getting 2 kills, that's also equal to about 4 plates. So you just got so much extra gold on the side of Frank Esports, and Sem9 weren't able to create any tempo off of that play of getting Herald.
That was 2,000 gold into the pockets of Frank Esports after that trade. We also had the gold graph pop up. Of course, Eminem was in the lead there. He got his first mythic item. He also bought an extra tier too at 10 minutes. So this guy is very far ahead of the curve. And you can tell Sem9 are not trying to hold on to that bot lane tower much at all. Already roaming Felia towards mid lane, trying to get something elsewhere. In the meantime, Frank Esports are doing a triple lane push at this point. They have all of their lanes covered, full river control. It just seems like Sem9 are scrambling to find somewhere to get back onto the map. Where can they really go with this composition?
And that's the hard part, right? Because you have a Jinx who isn't at all in position to hit item spikes,
Eminem.
so Felia's probably dead again.
Ooh, actually goes for the straight 1v2. No support, no problems, as Felia nearly just dies there. Eminem, not afraid, has a sustain to keep himself topped up. And meanwhile, in the top lane, we have a very similar story. Kurt going for a very early legendary item in the Hullbreaker. He's going to be dominating his lane. Finally, Caspiel is going to try to put a stop to Eminem and his happy times right here. It's a 3v1. What can Eminem do? He dodges out of the ultimate, gets a stun down, but will still fall down. Holo gets the first kill. K2 coming in to mop things up. Can they find a second? Will be a double for Holo. Pops into stasis. Probably didn't really even need that one, but wanted some time to flex the emotes.
Definitely a bit of a mistake when it comes to using that stopwatch, but I don't think he's going to face big consequences from it, because usually when you get that stopwatch, it's...
Ooh.
Oh, what a
Pretender
flash!
Outfakes the play, but the Sand Soldiers actually stop Carino from being sucked closer into the middle of the lane.
Yeah.
Kind of an interesting interaction right there. In the meantime, Frank Esports continuing to march their advantage forward as they take away the Infernal, and Kurt is just having a field day in the top lane.
Yeah, so the issue with these supportive style top laners is the fact that usually you want to... Your itemization does not play very well with going up against Hullbreaker top laners. And even if this was the 12-5 version of Hullbreaker, I would say that Kurt should go Hullbreaker anyways, even on that nerf version, because of the fact that it's just a really good tool to punish these top laners that are really only offer some sort of wave clear, but don't actually offer any threat to you, and you can just really push with impunity up top side.
Push with impunity. That's something that Singapore would really like to hear these days. But I was just mentioning that one because if Sem9 do drop here, it does massively improve Impunity's chances. If they win, they're actually just out of reach of Sem9. So, you know, pivotal games for both of our LST representatives coming in. In the meantime, we have another 3-man hit squad coming in from Eminem, but he will have some help from K2. Caspiel still decides to go in, pops the Crescent Guard early. He does survive a lot of the damage. Eminem can't let the damage onto Caspiel, but is still forced away. In the meantime, Holo is going to get something on the top side for this. Shiromine, the target of this gank, gets slowed down. He still has a Chrono Shift to stay alive here, but Holo isn't going to let him walk away for that long. Gets slowed once again with the Golden Aegis. He is ticking down, and the Challenger's Smite takes him in the end.
Yeah, Shiromine taking in a death there. That's going to exacerbate Sem9's issues because of the fact Kurt is going to be able to break this top tower. Also, of course, has a 40 CS lead, so he's been in a very comfortable spot. And so far, we haven't gotten to see the Zilean really get put into action because he's just been stuck in top lane, which is why, you know, we see him played in the support role, in the mid lane role, not just because of certain lane phases, but also just the fact that you're closer to the action that's going to happen on the map.
Ooh, no respect paid towards the Emperor of Shurima. Pretender once again sidesteps the ultimate and just forces him out of lane. He's not really looking for the kill, but he's happy to have a free PvE moment in the mid lane there.
And a lot of the times they aren't getting kills, but if you get an extra 2 waves of EXP and gold, you will slowly just grind out those kill equivalent advantages. So really well done from Pretender on that end. Has a 40 CS lead in the mid lane, and also has that completed Luden. So usually you look at something like the Orianna Shockwave, first fight might not usually be that explosive, but now that he has the completed Ludens, there certainly is a lot of wombo potential coming in from this Cataclysm Shockwave combo.
Jarvan definitely one of the best ball holders in the game. 7-9 are setting up for a trap, but they find a trap themselves. We have K2 going into the back line.
Shockwave
Pretender,
available.
Shockwave is there. He gets 2. Caspel nearly down, but 7-9 are making a great fight of this one. Holo goes into the back line, finds Hero Mania. There's no Chrono Shift onto him. Caspel's Chrono Shift times out, and Holo with the triple kill and the target selection. Great play from Frank Esports jungler.
What a fantastic read coming in from Frank Esports on that fight. They see that the Chrono Shift come down just a little bit early on Caspio, and instantly they turn for the backline, knowing that there's just no escape on this Zilean pick. Already burned the flash much earlier on that play around blue buff, and Caspio, I mean, he's trying to get the Chrono Shift off by forcing his way onto the carries, but it's just not enough. They're able to wait it out, but we get to see the replay of this fight. Once again, the Cataclysm coming down onto ClayX. He is a Jinx that's been put behind, so he doesn't have a whole lot of options to escape in that situation. And then we get to see the early Chrono Shift come down onto Caspiel. They instantly just turn their attention over to Shiromine, and that's the first action we've seen, or the first team fight we've seen. And so far, it looks like Frank Esports are in complete and utter control of this game.
I think that team fight was a great reason why you should not be picking Zilean in top lane. He just provides so little. He got 1 time bomb off, and a Chrono Shift that didn't help. So,
yeah,
I really want to know.
I can
the
find
thinking
reason
behind
if
it.
you're going to pull the Zilean to mid a lot more often, or try and roam with this champion, because he does move around the map very
In the meantime, though, I do have to stop you there, Caspiel. We do have some action. I'm sorry, I got a little bit too hyphy. I thought he might be going down, but Frank Esports, respect the Zilean.
Yeah, they at least have to give some respect, but now he's gone.
Chrono
No
Shift.
respect.
There was no time to even save the jungler right there. He just... that was an interesting move by Caspiel. I feel like the concept of object permanence would probably prevent you from face checking that brush twice, but yeah, he played that very callously. He went in again. He died without even getting to press his R.
Yeah, he certainly was a little bit free-spirited in his approach to re-entering the jungle. And now Frank Esports at 19 minutes, they've almost got a 10k gold lead. So this is a very oppressive lead, also given the fact that you have Cloud Soul on the table. It's just a whole lot of movement speed, and also importantly, the slow resistance is really nice against a champion like Zilean, who predicates a lot of his power on being able to play around move speed manipulation.
Definitely has been the case here. At least now the Zilean is moving with the rest of the team, so there could be some fun combos that we could see. You can put your time bombs on your allies, try to get stuns that way. So let's just see if Shiromine has some other tricks up his sleeve that we haven't been privy to just yet. In the meantime, K2, even though they're only traveling as a 2-man, they're willing to go super aggressive, and for good reason there, as Eminem takes half HP off of Felia with a simple clean daggers, double daggers exchange right there. Meanwhile, Kurt in the bot lane, completely unopposed. He does have that Wit's End completed and the Hull Breaker. He doesn't really fear these mages. There is no opposition in his way, and Holo gets to drop a super deep Herald just 20 minutes into the game. Let's see if this big push from Frank Esports. Caspiel nearly taken down to 0 HP. The Chrono Shift will come in handy. K2 knocks everyone up again, but Holo went too deep. That's going to be a massive shutdown. And in the meantime, Eminem does find 2 kills. So it will be a 2-for-1, but without the Herald, without Holo, 7-9 hold on.
Yeah, and I mean, at the very least, 7-9 do get to hold on to the rest of their base. It doesn't get penetrated in that regard, but red buff from ClayX does get the slow, but it's not going to be enough. Interestingly enough, we do see, of course, the Wit's End approach coming in from Kurt, but oh my god, Eminem is just he's an absolute unit.
We were talking about red buffs. Eminem was like, oh, thanks for holding my red buff for me. That was very nice of you. And he promptly just I think that was a 3-shot. Auto attack, Q, auto attack. I think maybe Blade Collar was used there, but still.
Yeah, the burst
it's not a
damage
good
on this
sign.
champion is nuts, especially, of course, with the lethality. And I don't know about that one, Felia.
You tried. You tried.
He wanted that ward really, really fast. Caspiel is also not in for a good time. And all in all, 7-9 are in not a fun time. Even against a no mythic Gnar. Because he could just go wit's end against these solo laners and just say, yeah, whatever. You don't have the damage to deal with me.
Super Mega Death Rocket. A little bit too early, doesn't find anything. I wholeheartedly agree with you on the wit's end points and everything that has happened so far. I'm just in a little bit of a... I think I'm in shock by how free Frank Esports has been able to play this game. They have thrown Trigger Discipline to the wind. They know they can just fire away their ultimates, completely disregarding their cooldowns. They don't really care at this point, and they can kill anyone. So it just feels like...
Yeah. And the big thing is, like, they can dump a lot of cooldowns on just trying to kill Caspiel, because if they secure that kill onto Caspiel, what can 7-9 do? Because then your front line is just a Nautilus, and Nautilus at level 9, 23 minutes into the game, that's really just nothing. He is just completely paper, so he's not real frontline in that regard, and you're very comfortable just, again, just pushing like it's nobody's business.
Yeah, we could be seeing the final push develop here from Frank. They are pushing into the base at 2 different
There's 3 lanes.
Oh, yeah, make that 3 as Pretender. He does decide to group with the rest of the team. Both inhibitors going down without a fight from Sam9. They're trying to goad Frank Esports into the Nexus Towers. This is where they can make their strongest stand. I'm looking for the Emperor's Divide, potentially from Carino. Can they find a chance to execute? They dodge out on Pretender. Shockwave Philia goes in, but doesn't find a target.
It's paper.
Eminem is trying to get taken down here. He goes low, but stays alive in the end. Carino has to use the Emperor's Divide in a defensive fashion. Caspiel is down. The Nexus Towers are next to fall, and we still have a teleport from Kurt potentially if he wants to continue this fight. Emote flash from Frank Esports, but they're not going to go for the risky play. Carino with the substitute tower. The Sun Disc keeps the Nexus intact.
Regardless, it's a 15k gold lead for the side Frank Esports. They're in a very domineering position, so this game feels like it's only a matter of time for them to close out, as they will be able to fall back and get themselves a Cloud Soul as well at 25 minutes. It's relatively early. They've delayed it to a certain degree, but Cloud Soul also means that they can move around the map incredibly quickly and just try and catch people out. It makes Kurt incredibly hard to lock down, especially now that he does have a Mythic completed, and it is the Triforce, so much damage on this Gnar. It is something we've wanted to see from Kurt, just play more individualistic, because it feels like his rotational and team play is relatively on point, but sometimes even if he wants to play for the team, because he falls so far behind in lane, it's not very effective. But here, I mean, it's just not even close.
Yeah, Eminem able to side split that top lane without any regard for Felia's feelings. And we have a 2-man Shockwave nearly decimating the front line from Sam9. Caspiel manages to stay alive with the Crescent Guard, but not for long. The Nexus is exposed, and that's a massive 3-man knockback from Kurt. They're not only going to take the Nexus, they're going to get the ace as well. 22-3, Frank Esports makes short work of Sam9 in a rather strong statement game. Probably the best games that we have seen from Holo and Kurt this entire split.
Yeah, good performances from players that have somewhat underperformed for this squad, and yet another amazing performance coming in from Pretender, he's shown that he has the ability to contend against some of the elite mid laners in our league, but also when it comes to playing some of these lower tier teams, he's just been absolutely suffocating in his matchup. So really, really, really impressive to see from him.
I'm just saying, one of these days, he's going to find a win on Vex. I believe, because that's his best champion, and so far he's 0-3 on the champion. Sometimes the stats can be very just kind of fooling the viewers here. Looking at the ban picks, again, I do want to talk a little bit about the Zilean and maybe some of your opinions on how this pick should have worked out. We did see the runes, there was Riverwalk, but no Smite. So what do you think about the setup? What do you think about top lane Zilean in general?
I think if you're playing top lane Zilean, you should be looking to shove in top wave once you hit that breakpoint on Zilean and just constantly invade topside. But again, because of the 2v2 kill down in that bot lane, Sem9 were really forced in a position that they had no other choice than to try and bail out their Jinx, because that's the crux of their late game damage, right? And it means that they can't focus their attention on trying to facilitate the Xin pick. So a lot of that utility that we could have potentially seen got taken away because of the transgressions in that bottom lane.
On paper, it seemed like a somewhat decent combo. You think about Xin Zhao going in, no regard to his own life, just like, be a man, and he charges up, and then you have Zilean time bomb stunning. Like, it all seems to work on paper, but then you actually see the game, and the Zilean never gets to push his lane. Xin Zhao is locked into the bottom side of the map. And that just kind of falls apart. So, great points you bring up right here. I do want to mention, again, for Sem9, they are currently on a 0-14 streak. And if Impunity do manage to win their game against Hurricane Gaming later today, that will mean that Sem9 officially will be out of playoffs. So right now, Sem9 are the biggest Hurricane Gaming fans on the planet. Taking a look at the damage charts right here. Very one-sided. There was never a lead coming in from the side of Sem9. Maybe a blip in the early game, but we know those don't really count. And the damage numbers really tell the story here.
Yep, the two carries on Frankie Sports, Pretender on the Orianna, and Eminem on the Xayah. Xayah is, at least in this current iteration with the lethality build, you have to maximize your lane dominance, and Eminem clearly did, as he just steamrolled that bottom lane, even in a 1v2 moment down bot.
Came back with the 5-minute serrated Dirk and the Tear of the Goddess, started stacking from there, and he just never stopped. There were so many moments where he was able to turn 1v2s, 1v3s. This pick went ahead is truly frightening. I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of Xayah's coming back onto the Rift here. Congratulations for the MVP.
Yeah, and this Xayah pick makes a lot of sense in our current PCS meta, which is a lot about the early and mid game. When you look at other leagues, they have a little bit more focus towards the mid to late game, but here in PCS, it's about getting early tempo, and it's about attacking that bottom lane, and Xayah is the perfect setup to take advantage of both of those trends.
That's definitely true, and we might be seeing more of her in our next matchup of the Gs. We have the OGs in PSG, and also the young Gs in DCG coming up right after this break.